Good morning and welcome to the premiere of season 2 at This Week at CFSA. I am Ashley as a part of the CFSA team, and I am joined by let's point in the right direction here, my colleagues Gena and Dylan, who manage our research and education farm team in Concord. And we listened to you on what you want with season 2, and we heard that monthly themes would be helpful. So for February, we're going to be talking about hunger and food access issues. With that said, the Lomax farm team grows food for donation. And so we wanted to spend the next 10 to 20 minutes talking about the programs they have set up there, advice that they have for other farmers who are interested in learning about growing food for donation or setting up a process to make growing food for donation or just the donation to reduce food waste easier. So without further ado, hi, Gena. Hi, Dylan.
Hi.
What are we looking at behind you? Tell us what's behind you.
Yeah, we're set up right outside of our office. So behind us, you can see our greenhouse out there that is heated up and full of tiny little plants. And then we're just hanging out outside on this slightly beautiful day right now.
Looks like it's a little dreary. Are you going to get some rain?
Well, we've had rain.
I think it's
well,
over
y'all,
for the day.
Well, I guess if we see it take a run for it, we'll know why.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about what Lomax's relationship with donating food is and kind of what happened in 2020?
Sure. So here at Lomax, we've always donated food to local food banks, and we've had different groups here growing food for the hungry. But those totals were usually around 500 pounds a year. So, whenever the pandemic hit the beginning of last year, we saw a huge opportunity to serve our community. And so we basically grew that program to help donate as much product as possible. And Dylan, how much did we end up donating this year or last year?
The total last season was a little over 9,600 pounds, so close to 10,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I think I was telling people 8,800, so that's I was wrong.
We've been fortunate to work with amazing partners. So, and it's one thing to grow the vegetables. It's another thing to actually get them out into the community. So we've been working with Cooperative Christian Ministries, which is here in Cabarrus County. And we've also been working with the Bulb, who serves communities in Cabarrus and Mecklenburg counties. So it's been nice to partner with them. We just worry about growing the produce, and they worry about getting it to the people who really need it. So that's been very helpful for us as we grew this program.
Do you all have any tips for farms that are looking to set up those partnerships? Like, how did you find those two, or what does maintenance of those relationships look like? Is it something you have to renew season to season, or is it just kind of an ongoing thing?
Yeah, so we've been working with Cooperative Christian Ministries for some time. Sometimes it's difficult to find food banks that will accept fresh produce. So, being able to locate those who have the facilities to keep the fresh produce is a pretty big deal. We did set up a routine where they were able to come and pick up out of our walk-in cooler. And so that was nice. We did designate an area in our cooler that was specifically for each food bank that we were working with. And so they would come and pick stuff up. It was a lot of communication, though, letting them know when we had product and when stuff was slowing down. And so there was a lot of communication throughout the whole season to make sure that, we didn't want them driving up here if we didn't have anything to give them. And, trying to strengthen those partnerships so they knew when to count on us. And we were being pretty transparent about what we were able to do because, farming has its in and outs and failures and successes. So, it was nice to work with them and help them understand, those pieces of it. So the advice that I would give them is just to make sure you find, you know, an organization that accepts the fresh produce, and then just stay in really good communication and try to be transparent about what you're able to do.
That makes sense. I mean, it's news to me, and maybe this is just as an outsider. I didn't know that some places don't want to accept fresh produce. Is that a storage issue, or do you know why that is?
It's about shelf life. So when you see a lot of the food drives, they're accepting non-perishable food items. So that's something we hear a lot. You know, when you're thinking about food banks, you know, produce is very perishable. You know, when you're looking at stuff that, you know, you're harvesting that morning, and it really needs to be distributed within a week, or it's going to go bad. You know, depending on what crop it is. So. And, you know, whenever it goes to the food banks, they have to have walk-in cooler space. They have to have, you know, we're not really packaging anything here, which is nice. So they have to have the facility and, you know, things there where that they can kind of repackage it for the consumers. So, yeah, it takes a lot of infrastructure and willingness on the part of the food banks to, you know, to be able to do this. And I know a lot of food banks would love to do it, but their facilities just can't, you know, facilitate it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, Dylan, I'm curious. So you're the farm coordinator. So you're a lot of like growing this food happen. And at Lomax, I'm talking a lot with my hands this morning. We have a farmer in training program where you work with farmers to develop their skills and give them the resources to develop their businesses. So how does growing all of this food happen? Because it's the two of you on this multi-acre farm. Like, how are the farmers in training helping? Do you rely on volunteers? Like, what does that look like?
We rely on a little bit of both. The farmers do help us when they are available, and it's, you know, it works for them a little as well, because it's a learning exercise for them. They get to learn as they're helping, and we rely on volunteers a lot too. It was mostly volunteers in 2020, since we only had really one farmer on the farm. She helped a lot, but we did have some volunteers, and it's mostly just for harvesting and planting. Most of the crops we choose for a reason, that they're not as much work in the field. You know, we can plant, weed a couple times, and then come back and harvest. So we're really looking at just a couple of really big labor days with each crop.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good segue into a question I wanted to ask you, Dylan, about kind of what you're thinking for 2021 and what you learned from, like, why are you growing the crops that you do, and what kind of successes have you seen if a farm's thinking about if they're going to have an abundance of something or wanted to grow something for donation? What are some of the lessons you've learned or things you're trying for 2021?
So mainly we're growing crops that are good storage crops. That is probably the main criteria, that what we're looking for. Because that way we've got a little more leeway with someone storing them here, and then someone coming to pick them up, and then they have a little more time to actually get them out to the public. So things like cabbage and carrots and potatoes are great because they're great storage crops. You can hold potatoes and carrots almost all winter long and still distribute them. We did a lot of zucchini and squash, which it was good. It was a lot of food. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of harvesting. So that was maybe something we'll back off a little of this year, and just probably lean more towards the storage crops.
So does it sound like, oh, go ahead.
I'd say we also encourage our farmers on the farm that have any extra produce to donate it as well.
Yeah, and
that's another way they can participate.
Yeah, you know, the way our walk-in cooler is set up, you know, because we have sections designated for the donation organizations, we can let the farmers, they just let us know, say, hey, I'm dropping a couple boxes on CCM's shelf. Then we can immediately call them and let them know, you know, this is going to be added to your pickup or something like that. So it's nice that they have a way to kind of get rid of some of the stuff that doesn't sell at the market, or excess harvest or something like that. So having our infrastructure set up to kind of help them out has been pretty cool.
Yeah, I would imagine. And if teaching those skills of like how to be thinking about that stuff into your harvest and like food waste practices, if you can get a system in place. I know that the farms that I worked on, it made it a lot easier when there was a system that was maintained instead of having to figure it out week to week or day to day. Having people come on fixed days at fixed times and being clear what they can take, and that definitely made it easier for us. Patricia just put in a comment saying, this issue is exactly why Robin Hood's Kitchen is so needed in our community. They take fresh products and turn it into delicious, ready-to-eat meals. So it sounds like, are y'all familiar with Robin Hood's Kitchen? That's new to me.
That is new to me. I know that we have a couple kitchens like that in Mecklenburg County. We haven't worked with them directly, but it's great to have more organizations like that pop up and use the fresh stuff. It's awesome if you can go ahead and change it into something that people can readily eat and readily have available, and and engage in helping communities that way too.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a good outlet if you didn't have an organization like food pantries or distributors in your area that can easily store those things. Then you can work with organizations that can maybe process that food really quickly and feed people. Patricia's correct in saying, I'm at produce. They're making food at Angelina's Kitchen in Pittsburgh. They donate to Cora Food Pantry. So thank you for sharing that, Patricia. That's awesome. I'm wondering, what else can you tell us about food for donation, and kind of, are there any other partnerships you're looking to make, or tips you would want to give growers that are interested in integrating this model onto their farm?
Yeah, so one tip that I would give farmers is, whenever you're looking at your production planning, think about those crops that are easy to grow, and potentially think about expanding how much of that you're growing. So if you're planning on growing, a fourth of an acre of carrots, just increase that a little bit. And, you're already taking care of that for your market. You already have those carrots, ready to go to help the economic part of your business. It's easy to tack on a few extra rows and, harvest those and actually be able to donate those. So I think picking a nice, easy crop and just increasing that a little bit is a really simple and easy way to be able to give back to your community.
Do you all ever have gleaners come out to the farm? I know it's not a production farm, so it's a different model. But I'm just wondering, have you all ever worked with gleaners?
So we have in the past, but have not in recent years. I think that that's also a really great way, especially for farmers who are on a larger production scale, to be able to contact those organizations that will come out and glean the crops. I think that that's another awesome way. The good thing about that is it's pretty easy for the farmer too. You just have, people come out and take care of it. You don't have to worry about storage or worrying about where it's going, So if you do have a field that there's going to be a fair amount of excess in, I think that that's great. I would say typically here we harvest just about every single thing that that we can, just because we are on a smaller scale. So I would be afraid the gleaners wouldn't have a whole lot to pick through if they can. We try to be pretty good about that ourselves. But yeah, I think that that's an awesome resource for farmers.
Cool. And maybe my last question to you is, if I'm a farmer and you were going to give me advice on like maybe the top few, maybe let's say 3, because that's the amount of fingers I'm holding up, 3 questions of like, if I wanted to set up a partnership where I'm calling someone and asking them to come pick up food, what are some of the questions that I should ask them to set that system up? I'm hearing like, do you have storage? What might be a couple of other questions that should be asked?
Yeah, so these are definitely questions we had to ask, whenever we were starting. you definitely have to ask about, you know, do they have a warehouse? Do they have cold storage? You know, what are their capabilities for accepting and storing crops?
Will they pick up, or do you have to come off to them?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the big one. And then I think that the last one would be, how do they want to accept the produce? So we were able to just put stuff in boxes, and we actually worked out an exchange where they would bring us some of their old boxes that we could harvest into. You know, so making sure that you're able to package those the way that they need them. That was important for us, you know, because it may end up being an extra cost on you as a farmer if you have to go out and buy special boxes or something like that. So that would be something that I would ask. And well, you know, there's one more question, and this is really important. Ask them what crops they want. So, you know, that was pretty big for us. You know, beets are easy for us to grow, but we had one of our partners say, we can't get rid of the beets. Nobody wants beets. Thankfully, the other partner said, great, we love beets. Everybody takes the beets from us, you know? So, you know, that was something that kind of helped us this year in planning too, is, you know, getting their feedback and making sure that anything that we grew, that they were able to take, and that the people were going to take it and use it, and there wasn't going to be any waste left over, essentially.
That makes a lot of sense. That I wasn't even thinking about that, but of course, like what do people want to eat, and what are the organizations able to move? Makes a lot of sense. Wow. Yes, of course. Duh. Well, we're at just about 17 minutes here. So for the sake of people's mornings, I guess we'll wrap it up. Do you have any parting words?
You know, I'd love to see more people, you know, be able to grow and donate to communities. I'd love to see more food banks have the facilities to accept, you know, the produce. I think that, you know, I have high hopes for creating an infrastructure that, you know, will get local, you know, good food to a lot of different people. So hopefully what we've been able to learn here will help out other people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both so much for your time and sharing your information and your wisdom with us. If anyone has any questions, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on CFSA's website, there is a page for Lomax Farms. So I encourage people to go check out that page, and it has contact information on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gena. Thank you, Dylan. And as Gena said, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to us via the website or any of the platforms that you are watching this video on. And we will be back next week talking about hunger from a different perspective, or hunger and food access from a different perspective, with our policy director. So have a good day, and we'll be back next week.